Please welcome Catherine Guarini.
Good morning. We have industry solutions in industries like fintech and retail and many others, including cross-industry solutions such as blockchain. Which brings us to the next topic, and I think you'll find this very exciting. You've heard, I'm sure, about Bitcoin. Well, blockchain is the distributed ledger technology underpinning Bitcoin. And it can be used across many industries to streamline business processes. Blockchain's in a position to really revolutionize industries, and our platform is positioned to play an important role. So to tell you all about it, I'm pleased to invite up my colleague, IBM fellow, Donna Dillenberger.
So what are blockchains good for? Blockchains are good for creating business networks. Businesses and people flourish when we're not isolated. When we're connected with our clients, suppliers, banks, we can share information, we can share assets. What kind of assets? Assets like titles to our cars, deeds to our houses, financial securities, even music. And when we share these assets using blockchain, then it doesn't take days to get the title to your car. It doesn't take weeks to get all the documents to your house. And it doesn't take weeks to go from a financial security that's issued to seeing all the other interested parties that would be able to manage it and buy it. So how does blockchain help the transfer of these assets? Well, before blockchain, every company keeps a record of their own transactions, which we call a ledger. But all these unique ledgers have their own different formats. And what blockchain provides is a way to have selected information from all those ledgers automatically replicated with each other. And so we have replicated ledgers, and then we also have smart contracts that tell us under what conditions these assets can be transferred. And so I'm going to show you a demo of using blockchain for trade finance. So we start from the exporter, right? The exporter is going to ship some parts to the importer, and it has to be approved by the customs authority. The customs authority is going to use the blockchain to say that I've approved these parts. The port authority is going to use the blockchain to say I've approved the parts. And finally, the trucking transportation service is going to say that they've received the parts and delivered it to the importer. When that's done, the importer is going to transfer $1 million to the exporter, and that's going to also be initiated from a blockchain application. The other thing that you're going to see from this demo is that the port authority has an existing business process in IMS where they already keep a manifest of all the things coming into their ports. So the blockchain application is going to call out to IMS using InterConnect that you've seen Mike Pereira talk about. The customs authority is also going to call out to KIX, which is that holds their existing business processes. So you get to see how blockchain integrates with existing enterprise applications. And finally, the transaction processing facility and DB2 is also going to be called out from these blockchain applications, because blockchain will provide a record that doesn't change of what is on the blockchain, but you still have your existing business processes where you want to incorporate select information onto this blockchain ledger so that all the participants could see it. So now I'm going to show you the demo. So the first thing we do is this is a Linux shell in a IBM Z system, and I'm going to start the blockchain. And so the open blockchain peer starts up. Another blockchain peer starts up to replicate it. And now I'm going to just bring up, I'm going to point my browser to the blockchain. So it's pointing to this Linux server that I just started up. And I'm going to sign on as the import bank. And when I sign on as the import bank, I'm going to add a contract, a smart contract. And it says that some parts are going to be delivered from the supply corporation. And when they're delivered, $1 million is going to be transferred to my account in the export bank. And I need these 3 other legal entities to approve on the blockchain before the $1 million could get signed off. This is the smart contract. I publish it, and then all the participants in the blockchain that have authority to see this contract can see it. So I publish it, and the number of blocks went from 2 to 3. And so now, if I sign on as the trucking authority, right? So let me just. And again, I point it to my blockchain, and I'm going to sign on as the trucker transportation service. You see that the trucking transportation service has a different view, right? It doesn't have any contracts that it needs to publish, but down here it sees that some parts need to be delivered, you know, as opposed to the import bank, right? So the import bank, it sees that the smart contract, the status, there's the trucker needs to sign it, the port authority has to sign it. And so when I sign on as a trucker, this is going to go from pending to signed. And so I'm going to sign it. But remember, the trucking service already uses an existing business process. And it calls out to TPF to make sure that the parts are in its manifest, scanned in by an IoT device. The number of blocks go from 3 to 4. The chain is replicated with the import bank's blockchain. And you see that the trucker status went from pending to signed. So people say, well, we could use a database to do this, right? You could use a distributed database, but remember, the other thing is you have to remember blockchain came out of the Great Recession, and it came out of people who didn't want just one entity holding the records of which transactions were valid. So by having these peers replicate each other, by having the blockchain fabric replicate all these records, and every record is hashed, so you can't delete it. If you delete it, then the whole hash won't work, and then you're just going to be rejected by your blockchain peers. So once it's on the blockchain, you can't delete it. So now I'm going to sign on as the port authority, and I'm going to sign out as the trucker, and I'm going to sign on as the port authority. And remember, the port authority uses KICS. So the port authority, I'm going to say the parts have arrived, calls out to KICS to make sure it is there. I sign it, and you see that the status went from pending to sign. The last one is the customs authority, and I'm just going to sign on as the customs authority. And again, what makes our blockchain different from Bitcoin is if you use a Bitcoin blockchain, all these entries that are on the blockchain is visible to anyone that hosts the blockchain. This blockchain is made for business, so that means you, as the entity that will publish the record, you could determine who gets to see your records. So the customs authority calls out to IMS, and then finally you'll see that the supply corporation gets $1 million in its bank, and that's what you see. So why would you run blockchain on Z? Go back to the slides. And well, because this is the blockchain stack. And starting at the bottom, you see that the biggest thing about blockchain is this communication from peer to peer, when you need to replicate the database. If you have the peers as separate VMs on Z, then you get 7x more throughput, and you have 82% faster response time. And you say, well, okay, the whole point of a blockchain is that different legal entities will run the blockchain on different systems. But you also have to a lot of companies have also asked IBM to host their blockchain because we're not a bank, we're not a supply, we're not in the same business as they are. So if you want to, you could have your company host a blockchain in IBM, or if you want to run it on-premise, you could run it on-premise, and you could have IBM be one of your partners that replicates the blockchain, and you would get this throughput and response time. Also, if you run your own blockchain on-premise and you need to integrate it with your existing business processes, then you'll get 7x more throughput and 82% faster response time with that. So the other thing is that blockchain has accelerators for cryptography so that everything's kept private. To authenticate, I am the customs authority, I am the port authority. We have accelerators for elliptical curve digital signatures. And hashing is a big deal in the blockchain. This is how you make sure that the entries can't be deleted. Hashing on Z is 5 times faster than hashing on other platforms. Our crypto protocols are 5 to 6 times faster than the crypto algorithms on other platforms. You know, even if I wasn't part of IBM, right, I'd want my blockchain to be in the most secure platform as possible. Why wouldn't you run it on Z? So then you might say, well, why would I even use blockchain? Because again, you have to remember, this technology is coming from our children. It's coming from the show me people, right? So it's going to come to the part where I want my pedigree, I want my supply chain on the blockchain. I will do business with this company because they have their supply chain on the blockchain. They have all the pedigree of their ingredients on the blockchain. So we know that they're not doing anything nefarious. So it's going to be one of these things, you know, organic certified, trade certified. My company is blockchain certified. So